Welcome to the Blanco Wellness Podcast. Thank you for being here. Take one breath before we begin, and notice that you just did something most people forget is available to them at any moment. Have you ever sent a message you wished almost immediately you could take back? Maybe it was after an argument that had been building for days, or a misunderstanding that arrived at the wrong moment, or simply a frustrating afternoon that finally found its outlet. In the moment of sending it, there was something that felt like relief, like the pressure had somewhere to go. Then an hour passed, sometimes less, and the relief was replaced by something considerably heavier. Not because what you felt was wrong, because the way it came out was not actually what you wanted to say, or to be, or to leave behind. Most people have been here, not because they are impulsive or careless, but because they are human, and human beings react. Something happens, and before a single conscious decision has been made, the mind has already interpreted it, the body has already responded, and the words or the action are already in motion. The whole sequence can take seconds. And many of the difficulties people find themselves in, the arguments that escalated beyond what either person intended, the relationships strained by things said in heat, the decisions that looked different the following morning, were not caused by the original event. They were caused by the reaction that followed it. Think about how an argument actually begins. Rarely with two people calmly exchanging perspectives. Almost always with a reaction. A word taken a particular way, an assumption made before the full picture arrived, an emotion that moved faster than the thought behind it. One person reacts, the other reacts to the reaction, and within a few exchanges, neither of them is actually responding to what was originally said. They are responding to each other's reactions, each one building on the last. The original situation buried somewhere underneath all the accumulated heat. The strange and painful thing is that both people usually walked in caring about each other. The reactions did the damage, not the caring. The Zen tradition has a story that catches this pattern with unusual precision. A student came to a master one afternoon in a state of visible agitation, wanting to talk through a dispute that had been consuming him. As he spoke, the story grew larger and the emotion behind it grew louder. The master listened without interrupting, and then, unhurriedly, began to pour tea. He poured until the cup was full and kept pouring. Tea ran across the table, then onto the floor. The student, startled out of his own narrative, said, "Stop, the cup is already full, nothing more can go in." The master looked at him. "So is your mind," he said. And for the first time that afternoon, the student went quiet. The image is exact. A mind already full of anger or fear or urgency cannot receive anything new, cannot hear what is actually being said, cannot see the situation as it actually is, cannot access the part of itself that knows what the wisest response would be. The capacity for clarity is not absent. It is simply unavailable, as long as the cup is overflowing. The pause is what empties the cup enough for something more useful to enter. This is what the pause actually is, not a delay for its own sake, not a strategy for appearing calm, but the brief interval in which awareness arrives before action. In that interval, something becomes possible that was not available inside the reaction. The ability to see the situation rather than only feel it, to choose a response rather than simply produce one, to be the person you actually want to be, rather than the person the triggered moment is temporarily making you. The Buddhist traditions describe this as the space between stimulus and response. And they considered the cultivation of that space to be among the most practically important work a person could do, not because emotions are the enemy, but because wisdom requires enough room to operate. The Taoist concept of Wu Wei applies here in a way that is often misunderstood. Wu Wei is sometimes translated as non-doing or effortless action, and people assume it means passivity, simply not acting. It means something more precise, acting at the right moment, with the right quality of attention, in alignment with what the situation actually requires, rather than what the agitated mind is insisting upon right now. Sometimes Wu Wei looks like a quick, decisive response. Sometimes it looks like waiting, not indefinitely, just long enough for the water to settle and the reflection to return. The intelligence is in knowing which is called for, and that knowing is only available after the pause. Think about the most genuinely steady people you have encountered, the ones whose presence in a difficult situation tends to make the situation more manageable rather than less. They almost always share one quality. They pause, not noticeably, not as a performance of patience, but genuinely. There is a beat, a breath, a moment of actual reception before the response comes. And what comes from that pause tends to be different in quality from what would have come without it. More measured, more accurate, more likely to actually address what is happening, rather than to add more heat to it. The difficulty is that the modern world has built most of its communication infrastructure around the assumption that faster is better. Messages expect immediate replies. Notifications are designed to produce instant responses. Opinions are shared the moment they form. The pressure to react quickly is constant and structural, which makes the choice to pause feel almost countercultural, like a deliberate interruption of a system that is working very hard to prevent it. But the choice is always there. The breath is always available. The moment between what happened and what you do next is always present, however briefly. And what you do with that moment tends to shape considerably more than the moment itself. As we close today, I want to offer something simple rather than a long instruction. The next time something triggers a strong reaction, a message, a comment, a situation that wants an immediate response, take one breath before you act, not to suppress what you feel, and not to manufacture a calm you do not have. Just one breath, creating one small interval between the stimulus and the response. Notice what becomes visible in that interval that was not visible before. Notice whether what comes from that breath is closer to who you actually want to be. Wisdom has always lived in that space. You just need to give it a moment to show up. Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, be well.